Welcome to the Middle East Talent and Leadership Podcast. I'm Ines Mokrani, founder and CEO of Matchmaker #1. Here we talk about leadership, transformation, executive decision-making, and what it really takes to build organizations that are ready for what comes next. And today I want to talk about one of the most uncomfortable decisions a leader can face. What do you do when one of your best performers is also one of the biggest problems in your team? Because sometimes the person delivering the strongest numbers is quietly creating costs that never appear on a performance report. Imagine someone in your organization. They're brilliant at what they do. They deliver, they know the business, clients trust them. Perhaps they generate significant revenue. Perhaps they hold knowledge nobody else has. Perhaps they've been with the company for years. On paper, they're exactly the kind of person you want to keep. But there is another side. People avoid working with them. They dominate meetings. They dismiss other people's ideas. They withhold information. They create tension. Maybe they take credit when things go well and blame others when they don't. And gradually you begin hearing things like, "I don't want to work on that project if they're involved." Or, "There's no point saying anything. They won't listen anyway." And the leader knows. Usually the leader knows long before anything happens. But then comes the sentence that changes everything. "Yes, but they're one of our best performers." And suddenly behavior we would never accept from an average performer becomes something we're prepared to tolerate. This is where leadership gets difficult, because performance matters. Businesses need results. We shouldn't pretend otherwise. If someone is exceptional at their job, losing them can have consequences. Revenue can disappear, clients can leave, knowledge can be lost, projects can suffer. So leaders begin making exceptions, just this once, then another and another. A difficult conversation is postponed, feedback becomes softer, behavior gets explained away. That's just how they are. They're under a lot of pressure. You know how important they are to the business. And slowly, without ever announcing it, the organization develops two standards. One standard for everyone else, and another for the people considered too valuable to challenge. But here's the problem. Your team sees both. We talk a lot about organizational culture. Companies define values. They put them on websites. They print them in presentations. They discuss them during onboarding. Respect, collaboration, integrity, accountability, trust. But employees don't learn your culture primarily from what you write. They learn it from what you tolerate. If you say collaboration matters, but repeatedly protect someone who destroys collaboration, your team knows which message is real. If you say respect matters, but exceptional performance excuses disrespect, your team knows which value wins. And if you say everyone is accountable, but one person repeatedly escapes accountability because of their results, your team understands something very clearly. Performance matters more than behavior here. Every exception you make for a high performer teaches everyone else what your organization truly values. That's why these situations are bigger than one difficult employee. They become leadership signals. The difficult part is that the high performer's contribution is usually visible. You can see their revenue, their sales, their projects, their results, their expertise, but the cost of their behavior is often invisible. You don't see the idea someone decided not to share in a meeting. You don't see the talented employee who quietly starts looking for another job. You don't see the hours colleagues spend managing conflict. You don't see the junior employee who stops speaking because they've learned that challenging this person isn't worth it. You don't see the collaboration that never happens. You don't see the trust that slowly disappears. And that's why the calculation becomes distorted. We compare the visible value of keeping someone with the visible cost of losing them. But we rarely calculate the invisible cost of keeping them, and sometimes that cost is enormous. This leads to one of the most uncomfortable questions in leadership. Leaders often say we can't afford to lose this person. But perhaps the better question is, can we afford to keep them? Not financially, organizationally. What is happening to the people around them? What behaviors are becoming normal? What are your strongest people learning about leadership? Who might you lose because you decided to protect one person? Because one exceptional performer can deliver extraordinary individual results. But if their behavior reduces the performance of 5 other people, are they still your best performer? That's a completely different calculation. Individual performance and organizational contribution are not always the same thing. And leaders need to understand the difference. Now, I want to be very clear. This isn't an argument for firing every difficult high performer. Leadership isn't about reacting dramatically. People deserve feedback, they deserve clarity, they deserve the opportunity to change. Sometimes highly successful people simply haven't been told how their behavior affects others. Sometimes organizations have rewarded results for years and then suddenly expect completely different behavior. That's not entirely fair either. So the first step is honesty. Specific feedback, not you need to be more collaborative. But when you interrupt people repeatedly in leadership meetings, they stop contributing. That is affecting the quality of our decisions, not your communication needs improvement. But 3 members of the team now avoid involving you early because they expect the conversation to become confrontational. Behavior needs to become visible, expectations need to become clear, and consequences need to become real. Then you watch what happens. Because there is an enormous difference between someone who can change and someone who believes they shouldn't have to change. Here's a question I think leaders should ask themselves in these situations. Knowing everything you know today, would you hire this person again? Not, would losing them be difficult? Not, how much have we invested in them? Not, how much revenue do they generate? Simply, if this person was sitting across from you today as a candidate, and you knew both their performance and their impact on the people around them, would you still hire them? If the answer is an immediate yes, then perhaps the relationship is worth repairing. If the answer is no, that tells you something too. And if your answer is yes, but only if their behavior changed, then you already know where the leadership conversation needs to begin. There is another side to this that leaders sometimes underestimate. What happens when you finally address the problem? Perhaps you coach the person, perhaps their behavior changes, or perhaps after every reasonable opportunity has been given, you decide they can no longer remain in the organization. Leaders often fear what the team will think, but frequently the team already knows exactly what the problem is. They've been waiting to see whether leadership knows too. And when leaders finally act, the message can be powerful. Our values apply even when applying them is difficult. That's when culture becomes credible, not when values are written, when they cost something. Because values that only apply when they're convenient aren't really values, they're preferences. The strongest organizations don't lower their performance standards, they broaden their definition of performance. Performance isn't simply, what did this individual deliver? It's also, what happens around them? Do other people become stronger? Does information move? Does collaboration improve? Can people challenge one another? Does the team perform better because this person is part of it? That's a much more sophisticated way to evaluate leadership talent. And it becomes increasingly important as people become more senior, because the higher someone moves in an organization, the greater the impact of their behavior becomes. A brilliant individual contributor can sometimes succeed despite difficult behavior. A senior leader cannot. Because at leadership level, your impact on other people's performance becomes part of your own performance. So this week, I want to leave you with 2 questions. First, knowing everything you know today, would you hire your highest performers again? And second, how much culture are you willing to sacrifice to protect one person's performance? Because sometimes the person who looks most valuable on paper is creating costs you haven't measured. And sometimes the hardest leadership decision isn't deciding whether you can afford to lose someone. It's recognizing that you may no longer be able to afford to keep them. Culture isn't what you say matters. Culture is what you're prepared to protect when protecting it becomes difficult. Thank you for listening to the Middle East Talent and Leadership Podcast. If this episode gave you something to think about, subscribe wherever you listen, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Podbean. And next time, we'll explore another leadership reality shaping the organizations of tomorrow. Until then, keep leading forward, stay strategic.